Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Warning: this video will contain spoilers for the Tom King comic, Rorschach. This video may also include discussions and/or images of violence, sexual situations, and drug use. Viewing beyond this point is a choice you have made, and you take responsibility for that choice. Thank you, and please have a nice day.
Hello and welcome to this video. I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone is having fun. And I hope the universe is treating you fairly. Today's video is going to be about the 2020 DC comic Rorschach, written by Tom King and art by George Fomes. And this is a ride. This comic is a ride. The original 12 issues came out between October 13th, 2020 and September 14th, 2021. It was hindered by the events of 2020. The getting everything together before the release was hindered by the dark times. That virus thing that YouTube does not want mentioned on their platform. However, some of the stuff that I've read, basically because of DC choosing to kind of halfway ignore the events of Doomsday Clock, the HBO miniseries The Watchmen, and the original Alan Moore Watchmen, they decided they wanted a true sequel to Alan Moore's work. Doomsday Clock was kind of a half-ass reboot of the DC universe. I will do a video on Doomsday Clock later on. I will also do a video later on Watchmen, because the original Alan Moore Watchmen is a very, very dense work of art, and it needs the time, and this being the holiday season, I really don't have the time to do a proper Watchmen video right now. So we're kind of doing these videos backwards, which is kind of cool, but it is what it is. Some of the background stuff that I've read and come across says basically Tom King went to DC with I have a idea for a batshit crazy conspiracy theory detective story comic. And DC went, if you can set it in the world of Watchmen, because we want a true Watchmen sequel, if you can set it in that world, you have carte blanche. And King went, all right, I think I can do that. And this is what we got. The premise of the story is this takes place 35 years after the events of the original Watchmen, which happened in 1985. You have an unnamed detective who is telling the story, who is essentially us, the viewer, the reader. Is kind of the stand-in for the audience. You have William Will Myerson, who takes up the persona of Rorschach. William Myerson, excuse me, I said Morrison earlier, but it's Myerson, is an analog for the real-life creator of Spider-Man, or not Spider-Man, my bad. He did not create Spider-Man. I misread my notes. Steve Ditko created the Charlton Comics superhero The Question, who was originally incorporated into DC. Steve Ditko was a libertarian. He was a devout follower of the writings of Ayn Rand. And it came across in his characters. And William Myerson, and this is a analog for him. He takes up the persona of Rorschach. You have Laura Cummings, also known as the Kid. Laura Cummings had one of those childhoods that we, the reader, as we're reading it, is like, this is very abusive, this is very culty, this is very weird. But from her perspective of being a little girl and growing up in this household and this style, this kind of cult, is, for her, it's perfectly normal. She doesn't realize how badly her parents and her parents' friends are fucking her brains up, are fucking her worldview up. Like I said, in the 1985 The Watchmen, you had a character, Ozymandias, who masterminded a fake attack of a mutated psychic organism squid thing. He kills millions of people in New York. And because people in America are going to conspiracy theory, you have different conspiracy theory groups come up. And the one you have that Laura Cummings grows up in believes that the squids are going to attack again. They're preparing for the squid attack. Her mother at some point starts to doubt the cult's the way the cult is, the way the reality that the cult is trying to present. So Laura's father is convinced that the squids have got into her brain. They are psychically controlling her. So he takes Laura out with his mom and kills her. And Laura thinks nothing of it, because that's the way she's been brought up to believe, that it's the squids doing this. Then time passes. She's a little bit older. She's being trained by this cult and her father, and she is like world class super marksman lady. Daddy starts to doubt the cult and the inner turmoil that it causes. He goes out with Laura and explains to Laura what's going on, then has Laura kill him. And she does. She's happy to do it. And more time passes. She becomes increasingly fixated on the return of the squids. There's a president. The current president is Robert Redford, and she believes that he is working with the squids. Actually, no, she doesn't. I misread that again. She believes that her opponent is... his opponent in the upcoming election is working with the squids, even though he is a hard right-wing conspiracy nutcase. She in her brain is rationalized that that's the squids using him with this facade to fool the American people. So she recruits Will Myerson, who is a radical, he himself, and he dons the persona of Rorschach. She dons this kind of cowboy-esque, kind of dresses and looks like the female cowboy character from the Toy Story movies, with a simple, old-school Lone Ranger domino type mask on. And they attempt to assassinate the presidential candidate running against Robert Redford. The book opens up with both Laura and Will getting killed. The detective is introduced. He is not named. He is not given a name. He's just simply the detective. And we get to see the investigation through his eyes. As he gathers evidence and pieces things together, you have some wonderful flashbacks. You have a cameo by the real world comic author Frank Miller, which I've done several of his comics and videos. And Frank Miller is portrayed as post 9/11 Frank Miller, with all the trauma and baggage and everything from that. You have seances. You have the hearing of things that you hear them because you want to hear them. And it is, from beginning to end, it is a nail biter. Tom King, in my opinion, that is his strength. He has given us titles like Gotham City Year One, which is a detective noir story. Human Target, same lines. His run on Batman. For all the faults that people come up with in his run on Batman, the detective side of Batman's character, he does very, very, very well. Hell, he did the Batman Omer Fudd, and that's actually a good story. I did a video on that a while back. It's somewhere in the playlist. Even though the Batman Omer Fudd story is one of those stories where you're like, this is a pretty good story. DC can never ever do this again, and I would be happy. Type of story. I really highly recommend this comic. It is one of those comics that you don't have to have read The Watchmen to enjoy it. It gives you all the pieces from the original Watchmen that you need for understanding this story. It does it through flashback, it does it through exposition, and it's all done very well. The art is beautiful. This is another one thing I can say, in probably the last 10 years, 15 years, that comic book art has become a high art. It has become extremely beautiful. Whereas it was kind of hit and miss in the 80s and 90s, 2000s, 2010s. Now it's high art. They are putting the time and the money into it. Like I said, I highly recommend this graphic novel. It is more than worth the time to read. You can read it for free on Read All Comics Online, which I know I put because I did it several videos ago, so I wouldn't forget it. And the link below, it's one of the first links. I have all my Gen X links. Then I have a non-Gen X section. It's one of the first few links in the description box below in the non-Gen X section. You can go there and read it for free. And read it there and decide if you want to spend the money on it. I read it and I did spend the money on it. It is just a wonderful all-around comic. So, till next time, everybody, be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.